Hi, this is Dr. John Burghduff again, and this is video number 5 in introducing how to run our online class, Math 0314 1314. And the topic of this video is communication. In a face-to-face class, communication is very simple. You just simply raise your hand, or you drop by the professor's office and knock on the door, and you can ask a question that way. Well, online is different. You can't obviously do either of those two things, but communication is very, very important to me. And I want to make sure we have some good channels where you feel supported, not out on your own, all by yourself in the wilderness, that you can communicate with me and also with your fellow classmates at any time that you need to. Being an asynchronous class, we're sort of open 24/7. If I'm awake, I will probably be looking at least periodically into this class. And so if you have a question posted anytime, I will get back to you always within 24 hours, more likely than that, more quickly. So I want to show you some of the tools that are available in my math lab for communicating, because there are several and they're all good for different reasons. You may have a favorite, but I'll show you why I have so many, and we'll make sure we use them all in the right way. So I'm going to share my screen again and get this little fellow out of the way so you can see. I've immediately opened the Math 1314, my math lab. Communication is exactly the same in both classes. You can do this from either one. It sort of makes sense that if you have an 0314 question, when you get to the discussion board, which we'll talk about, going from within that class makes sense. Actually, though, all the other tools we have, just pick one of them. The communication will get to me the same way, no matter what. So we've already actually looked at one way that we can communicate. If you're in the midst of your homework, you might remember from 2 videos ago, while you're doing a question, there's that Ask My Instructor button that you can click, excuse me, and that will generate an email directly to me. And that's certainly one way to communicate right while you're doing your homework. But you can also just send me an email at any old time. If you look at the links over here in the left column, notice there is an email link, and that cleverly lets you email. Once the class begins, the names of all the participants in the class will be here. So actually you can email anyone in the class. If you get to know someone sort of as the class goes along and you want to ask each other questions or form a study group virtually online, you can do that. And what you simply do is you select the name of the person you want to email, click add. You don't need to do a CC there. Type a subject and a title and whatever message you want here. If you have some work that you would like me to look at, some pencil and paper work, very much like we talked about in testing, you can make a scan of it with your phone, make a PDF out of it, and you can add and remove an attachment right there. And then you hit send, and off goes the email through outer space, and it'll show up in my mailbox. The important thing to know about email is that the email system in my math lab sends things to the email address you used when you registered for my math lab. So there's no separate inbox like you would see in D2L or Canvas or Blackboard or any of those, where you have to go somewhere else to look at your email. It goes to your email address. Now, the danger of that is you have to make sure that you are checking your email address. And what often happens is, especially for students that have had my math lab accounts for a while, the email address they may have registered with is no longer valid. So as soon as this video is over, what I'd like you to do is check the email address you've got registered in my math lab, and here's how you do that. Up in the towards the upper right-hand corner of any page, you'll see hi John or hi whatever your name is. Click there, and you'll see a sign out button, which is for signing out, and an account button. The account button goes off into another area of my math lab where private information is kept. It's secure. So you'll be asked to sign in a second time using the same credentials that you used to sign in with my math lab. And once you're in, you'll see that there's that your email address you've got registered with is right here, and your username you chose is right here. And you simply can edit that if it's not an address that's good. When you've got it changed, you just click done and you're finished. Now, I would recommend that the email address you pick is your my.lonestar.edu email address. You don't have to, but when I send emails from my math lab to like a Yahoo account or a Gmail account, sometimes they're not recognized and go into a spam filter. So if you're using one of those, you'll need to look in your spam filter and make sure that there's no emails being held back. And if there are, you want to whitelist them. So you can use another email address, but make sure you know what it is and make sure that whatever it is, you're checking it. That happens in this class all the time. Someone will say, you never emailed me. And I said, I emailed you 4 times. And then they go find it in their spam folder. Or they realize they're not looking at the right email address. So once that's fixed, click this little sign out in the black, which gets you out of that secure part of My Math Lab back into plain vanilla My Math Lab, let's say. And we'll look at a few other options as well. Now, here's a different way to communicate. Over here, again, among the links on the left, which is where you look for just about everything, is something called a discussion board. You may have encountered discussion boards in other online classes. This is not going to be a mandatory part of this class, and we're not going to have formal discussion questions. But the discussion board is a great place to post questions that you think might be of interest to everyone in the class, because I can answer them and everyone can see. And even better, one of your colleagues might see the questions and say, oh, I understand your question. The way Dr. Burghduff explains it is so complicated. Here's an easier way to think about it. And you can help each other that way. So when you go in the discussion board, notice that there are 3 different links called forums based on what kind of question you have. The course content forum is a place for posting questions about the mathematics itself, the concepts you're learning. The technology forum gives you a place to post questions about maybe problems you're having with My Math Lab or how to do something in My Math Lab, issues you're having with Remind, which I'm going to talk about, with your graphing calculator, using WebEx, any of those things. And then etc. is just a forum that I posted because there are probably things that I didn't think about that you might want to respond to or you might want to ask about. And if it doesn't seem to fit in the other categories, put it here. Whichever one you choose, what you do if you'd like to post a question in that forum is you click respond and you give your question a title. Something better than that would probably be recommended. And then you might say, I can't find the video on quadratic formula. What section was that in? Okay. You can also post a document here too. If you would like me and everyone else in the class to see it, maybe some scratch work where you say, I know something's wrong here, I don't know what it is, let us take a look and we can all offer advice. And then once you have your question written, you can mark it as a question if you like, to just emphasize it's a question, and then click post. There's a separate discussion board in the 2 classes. So if you can put your Math 0314 questions in that class and the Math 1314 questions in that class, that will help. And I will check this, and please you also check and see if anyone's posted something of interest. And that would be great. I don't want this, so I'm going to cancel out. So that's the discussion board. Another way we can communicate is visually through WebEx. WebEx is a video conferencing tool. Some of the videos that I'm creating here are created through WebEx. Others are created through Zoom. And others are created through another software called EduCreations. It's a great way to set up a conversation where we can see one another. I can share my screen, you can share your screen. If you are interested in meeting by WebEx, we'll call that face-to-face office hours, if you will. Simply send me an email saying you'd like to do that, and we'll communicate, find a good time. I will send you an invitation that will arrive in your email that just has a little green button that says join the meeting, and you'll be in. And we can do that whenever needed. We may try to do this as a group periodically, always totally optional. If there's something that is going on that a lot of people are struggling with, I might invite you to a group WebEx, maybe before a test or on some other occasions. So just watch for your email for that possibility. But email me anytime you like. All right, what else can you do? Well, I don't want to give you too many options, but another thing you could do is in document sharing, which we saw the other day, you might notice that besides the Scratchwork folders, there's sort of a generic folder that just has the name of the course on it. If you select that one, you can also upload a document here that will get it just to me. So that gives you another option. Might be nice if you email me to let me know there's something there, but I will watch that also. One thing you always want to think about when you communicate is whether what you want to communicate is private or of general interest. A question about content might be just as much a question someone else has as you do. So considering using the discussion board could be a really good idea. If you want to talk about issues with your grade, which is very personal, you don't want to use the discussion board for that. You want to use email for that so that it stays just between you and me. Okay, well, that's a lot of options. You can use any of them, and I've got one more to tell you about, and that's setting up text messages. I like to send reminders via text message, and text message is also an extremely good way to get you emergency information. You might know that the college has a text messaging system to announce school closures. But we can have issues like maybe a problem with my math lab, or a school closure that I want to reiterate. Anything like that is good to communicate by text. So when you click this little, the program we use for text messaging is called Remind. You can get to it from a smartphone or any phone that can do text. Click on Remind, and there's some instructions here on how you set this up from a smartphone or a regular phone. The nice thing about Remind is we are communicating by text through phone, but our phone numbers are hidden from one another. I don't see what your phone number is, you don't see what mine is, and neither do any of your fellow students. That's all hidden. It's just so you can have that information be anonymous. I really, really like that. Remind is wonderful, and I will use this frequently to get you reminders and key information. It might be as simple as check your email. I just sent you something, a really important attachment. So email, ask my instructor, discussion board. One last thing, and we're done here. If you go to the course homepage, and I'm going to set it up the way you see it. Notice that there's an area for announcements. I mentioned it in the first video, but just to mention it again, I will sometimes post announcements here, and I generally will post an announcement at the beginning of every week, Monday of every week, with just sort of a rundown reminder of what's coming up that week. So keep an eye in this announcement area for what is most recent, and if the announcement is long, clicking this little down arrow will let you see the entire thing. So I hope this helps you feel like you've got a way to be connected to me and also to each other. And as you work through the class, we'll have help to get you anytime you need it. So thank you very much. And that is it for this video. There is one more to go.